Hello there everyone and welcome to today's video. So one question that I've heard a lot of Star Wars fans ask is why didn't Han believe in the Force? There are three main reasons that people say Han's disbelief in the Force doesn't really make any sense. The first reason is that Force users have existed since basically the beginning of time. The second reason is similar to the first and kind of piggybacks off of it. Force users have been around for Han's whole life. Jedi and their abilities were relatively well known throughout the galaxy. And the third reason is that Chewbacca knew Force users personally. In this video, I'm going to try to explain why he didn't believe in it. I'm going to tackle each one of these questions and try to answer it. So let's take a look at the first reason. Force users existing since the beginning of time. So just because they have existed since the beginning of time doesn't necessarily mean Han would believe the stories. Remember in A New Hope when he said that the Force was just some hokey religion? Han seems like the kind of person who doesn't believe in something unless he sees it. So the history of the Jedi and Sith and other Force users doesn't really mean anything to him. I'm sure some people are wondering why he didn't see the Force being used if Jedi were around when he was a kid. That brings us to the next reason, Han being alive during the same time as Jedi. Han was about 7 years old when the Clone Wars began and 10 years old when the Jedi Purge took place. So how is it possible he hasn't seen the Force in action? This is probably due to the fact that there are millions of inhabited planets that the Republic and Empire control. There are estimated to be about 10,000 quadrillion sentients. There were maybe 10,000 Jedi. 10,000 Jedi spread across that many planets and that many beings. And sure, the Clone Wars were happening, but with that amount of Jedi spread throughout that many planets, unless Han witnessed a battle in the Clone Wars firsthand, he probably wouldn't have seen the Force being used, especially considering how young he was. After the Purge, he was still only 10 years old. He didn't start traveling across the galaxy until he was older. At that point, the Jedi were either dead or had been deep in hiding for years. So that's why I think Han never saw the Force being used. Now the third reason. We know in Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars that Chewbacca knew Force users. He knew Yoda, Ahsoka, and several other Jedi. He definitely saw the Force being used. So if Chewbacca knew about the Force and Chewbacca was best friends with Han and spent a lot of time with him, why didn't Han believe in the Force? This one honestly had me confused for a while. One explanation that I've heard is that they just never talked about it. Chewbacca never thought to mention the Force. But I don't really buy this. You don't see Yoda sense the betrayal of his own troops, do a flip and cut off their heads before they have time to react, and not tell your best friend. Here's what I think the real reason is. Another theory that I've heard is that Han is supposed to represent an agnostic or atheist in the Star Wars universe. Chewbacca probably did tell him about the Force, but Han still didn't believe it. This makes sense. Even after Luke was able to deflect a blaster bolt without being able to see, he still doubted it. He saw the Force being used with his own eyes and still doubted it, calling it luck. This might also explain the first two reasons that I talked about earlier. But why didn't he want to believe in the Force? Knowing Han, he probably didn't like the idea of something controlling his destiny. Remember, he said, "There's no mystical energy field controlling my destiny." Han is most likely in denial because he wants to make his own decisions. Han wasn't the only character in Star Wars who didn't believe in the Force that we've seen. In The Phantom Menace, we see that Jar Jar doesn't believe in the Force. In A New Hope, Luke has never even heard about the Force. Captain Antonio Monti tells Vader that he has a sad devotion to an ancient religion. So Han isn't really alone in his disbelief. So to summarize all of what I just said, Han doesn't believe in the Force because he probably never saw the Force being used, and even if he did, he didn't want to believe in it. So what do you think? Do you agree with my answers? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments. Until next time.